But technically speaking, we are generally driven in the good hands on the wheel by, of course, Casey McAllister. More on him in a minute. But today, BLP, as he's known, Big League Paul, along with Elliott Rearing, a.k.a. Zebra. Jacob Tissett's even coming over here and helping out on the big board. Paul, how are we looking? I mean, you're staring into that whole thing. I'm a little worried about you. Okay, well, we've already gone black. Well, no, we've already gone black. We are here. We're a minute and a half in, and we're black.
We're here. I'm trying to figure out how to get the graphics going because we had to do a whole new graphics package yesterday, and the graphics aren't popping up on the screen. So let me see if this maybe works. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. No. We'll try it. I'll figure it out here.
All right.
I'll figure it out. We'll rock through it.
All right.
Go ahead.
Elliot, I mean, are you lending a hand, or are you just staring at a screen with a blank stare?
Yeah, I'm trying my best here. I'm moral support right now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here.
Well, Jacob, why are you sitting there? Get over there and help him out, for God's sake. I mean, we're doing our very best around here to get this thing going. I can't even lean on Paul for our regular open here, I don't think. Our program comes your way Monday through Friday, 10 to 12
P.
He's on it. That's Eastern time. You can follow us on YouTube. Many of you in the chat already. We will get to that in a moment. That's the Chatterbox Sports page, and you can join us in podcast form. Our numbers are climbing 20% every month. Just search Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman and you're dialed in. Ho-hum. Another game, another win, much like the weather around here, for your Cincinnati Reds. Much like Tuesday night, another nail-biter. Boston kept threatening, especially in that seventh inning. But the bullpen hung on in relief of starter Luke Weaver, who again was solid last night. Not great, but solid. Went 5 2/3, allowed 3 runs. The Reds beat Boston 5-4. Kevin Newman and Matt McClain each had 2 base hits. Spencer Steer just continues to have an outstanding rookie season. He hit a 2-run home run. The Reds have ripped off 5 straight wins tonight. They will try for a perfect 6-0 road trip through Chicago and Boston. And really, what a pitching matchup tonight. You got 2 power guys. Hunter Green against lefty Chris Sale. First pitch at 7:10. Reds are going to fly out of Boston very late after the game tonight. Probably won't get home and in their beds till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And then they get up, and tomorrow night they face division-leading Milwaukee. Cincinnati is only 3 games out of first place in the National League Central Division. Nick Kirby, our good buddy, will join us shortly to talk about the Redlegs. Will we see Ellie De La Cruz this weekend at Great American Ballpark? Rumors continue to swirl that we will, so please stick around for that. On the hardwood, the NBA Finals start tonight in Denver. The Western Conference champion Nuggets will host the Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat. The Nuggets have never won an NBA title. Tip-off Game 1, 8:30. Not a bad day for Monty Williams. He has agreed to a 6-year, $78.5 million contract to coach the Detroit Pistons. It's the largest coaching deal ever in NBA history. Williams was fired in Phoenix this year after the Suns failed to reach the Western Conference Finals this season. We've been wondering about Zach Edey, College Basketball Player of the Year. He's coming back. The 7'4" Purdue Boilermaker will play 1 more year at the collegiate level. He averaged 23 points and 13 rebounds per game last year. And as you know, Purdue will play Xavier in West Lafayette this season. And then on the pitch, we don't have Casey to lean on today for this. FC Cincinnati. I mean, I got to tell you. I mean, we're talking about the Reds winning games. They're still under 500. This FC Cincinnati team is, I mean, they are rolling. 11 wins, 1 loss, 3 draws. They beat New York last night 3-1 in MLS play. They have by far the best record in the league. Next up, a home game at TQL. You know that'll be sold out. Saturday night against the Chicago Fire. Well, we mentioned we have Nick Kirby coming up in about 5, 6, 7 minutes. But I got to tell you, one very disturbing trend on a very active chat this morning. Very active. Sir Boy Wonder has come out, guns a-blazing. I mean, from every direction, right? But the disturbing thing here is Casey McAllister. He is actively involved in the chat today. It's his first day off in preparation of his wedding day. 48 hours plus and counting. Paul, do you find that disturbing in any form or fashion?
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday, and I was trying to convince him that he needed to truly take a day off, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Now, to Casey's credit, I would not have been able to get the graphics up there had he not called me a minute ago, and I do apologize if you heard my little ASMR microphone call. So we have the microphones here labeled Casey and Paul, but I realized I'm not sitting in my normal seat, so I actually muted Elliot, not me. So you all got to hear me walk through the graphics thing, but yeah, we're still getting ourselves under control here, but we're all good. And Casey, maybe Casey sticks around here, and let's make sure Nick Kirby gets on here. I see Nick Kirby. Nick, I see you, Nick. I'm going to get you on here in just a minute.
Abraham chats in with emojis. He says, I think it just shows that Casey is he's got the peanut shell and a pair of scissors. Nutcutter Nation. Unite. All right. Is Nick ready to go?
Not yet.
Oh, boy.
Not yet. I'm telling you, not yet.
This is like,
I'm telling you, not yet.
Disciples out in the boat. Right? They're in the boat. Here comes the storm. Here come the 10-foot waves in the fishing boat. Right? And they're all wondering, who's going to help us here? And Jesus is like, guys, I got it covered. Relax. All right? You're losing faith here. Right? I mean, this is and Sir Boy Wonder is asking, did I do something wrong?
No, I didn't do anything wrong.
No, Sir Boy, you're on your game. I have no beef with Sir Boy. He's been very busy lately.
Do you have a favorite member of the chat, Tom?
What's that?
Do you have a favorite member of the chat?
No, I think they all bring
favorites?
different. It's like a really good team, right? I don't know if this bunch has any stars or not, all right? But a really good team has got to have contributions in different ways from different players, right?
Absolutely.
As a man, as Clint Eastwood once said, a man's got to know his limitations. So, you've got guys that are there regularly. Sir Boy, one of them, right? Mouse Cop, many, many others. There regularly. PB's Ghost, AJ, so on and so forth. And then you've got guys that drop in that bring a lot to the table. They might be your defensive specialist. They might be your rebound guy if we're using basketball. If it's football, really good blocker and pass protection, right? Really good number 3 wide receiver. So we got all that going on. It's good stuff. It is.
Yeah, he's here. He's here.
I know. I keep seeing him.
Well, so the problem
in our preview screen. And then all of a sudden, the guy. I mean.
So here
he just disappeared.
So all right, everybody. Since we're all in the we're all on the same page here, and we're all in the trust tree, and we all know how this all operates.
I'm not sure we all know.
No, see, here's the only thing that I forgot how to do here is how to put you guys next to each other. So I have Nick. We can go to Nick right now.
How about I'll just ask him the questions and then you just put him.
That's what we'll do, and
okay?
I
problem
think
with
Nick,
that at all.
I think Nick can figure that out. All right,
here we go. It's a pleasure to be joined by Nick Kirby. You see him right here all the time on Chatterbox after the games with Trace Fowler, breaking down what's going on. Nick, you guys have been having a lot of fun on the show. Reds are winning a lot of games. When I bounce around, Nick, I mean, I get the feeling there are a lot of people out there that are wanting to sort of jump back on this Reds bandwagon. Maybe they've been off of it for a while, even going back to last year or the year before, whatever it might be. Expectations weren't very high. Now, all of a sudden, they've won 5 in a row. They're playing really exciting baseball. But people are a little reluctant to sort of jump on again. Do you get that feeling?
Yeah. Hey, Tom. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some reason for caution this season. I know I've said on our show many times, I'm definitely more optimistic about the overall future than like the prospects of this season. As exciting and as good as the Reds have played of late, I mean, they do still have like playoff odds below 4%. So I don't think we need to completely be jumping overboard and saying, oh, this is our year and that kind of stuff. Now, it's been fun and they're hanging around and you never know what can happen in a baseball season. But overall, I'm definitely more looking towards the future than this season, but I'm definitely really enjoying things right now as they stand.
All right, you hit on a key word here, which I think is certainly appropriate for this team. They are really fun to watch, the way they run the bases. They're not a big home run team, but they're a very aggressive team. They seem like they are enjoying going out there to compete each and every night, win, lose, or not, whatever.
The Reds faced 2 really good starting pitchers that had been pitching very, very well, and Bella and James Paxton. And they got Bella out after 4 innings, and they got Paxton out after 5 innings. Both those guys pitched well. They got a lot of swing and misses, but the Reds just they grind out every single at bat, and they drag this pitch count out. And it was no better example than last night. Paxton's in the 5th inning at 80 pitches with 2 outs, and Jose Barrero comes up. And the Reds with Jose Barrero, Luke Malley, and I'm forgetting someone else. Someone in the bottom of the order got 20 pitches to extend him and get him out of the game. And then they were able to get into the bullpen and score some runs against the Red Sox bullpen. And that's just, I think, what's been the most exciting to me is just, man, every single night these guys are grinding out at bat after at bat after at bat. And they're not letting their deficiency in power, which is very clear. They clearly have a power deficiency. They're not letting that stop them from still producing and scoring runs. And that's been really cool to see them kind of like overcoming that.
You were talking about this season compared to the future and your level of optimism, but Nick, let's lay it out on the table here. Back to what the original first question was about sort of fan apathy, that kind of thing, and based on some of the comments made by the front office and not spending a lot of money, having a rebuild plan, et cetera, et cetera. You don't think at all that the Reds should consider being a little more aggressive, knowing that here we are and the team is 3 games out of first place right now, as far as entertaining the possibility of trying to get better, not just from the guys in their minor leagues, but maybe making a deal to bring somebody else in?
I think overall they should stick to the plan. I mean, things could change here. We still got 2 months before the trade deadline. So let's say the Reds go on some crazy run and they're 5 games up. Okay, then we could completely reevaluate it. But if the Reds are, a couple games out at the trade deadline, I think they should overall stick to the plan. Maybe they could deviate a little bit. Maybe a guy like Buck Farmer, who's a free agent at the end of the year, instead of just cashing in on him and trading him for, team's 40th best prospect, they could hold on to him. I could see maybe this team doing something similar to what they did in 2019. I know, Tom, you would remember this, when they acquired Trevor Bauer at the trade deadline, a guy that hadn't really pitched that well up to that year, still had another year of control left, or so they were kind of buying low on him, where he did help the team now, but it was more about the next year. I could see maybe some moves like that if there's someone out there that has that type of player that they want to move on from. I could see a move like that, but I don't think overall you're looking to really deviate from the plan at this point, at least.
Okay, look, the article was written in The Athletic by C. Trent Rosecrans. Ken Rosenthal has written about it. We had Scott Boras on here yesterday, Jonathan India's agent. Look, I mean, if indeed they're going to continue to bring young players up from the minor leagues who by and large are infielders, if not exclusively infielders, and look, that's 4 different positions on the field. We get it. But there's not enough room for all of them. Let's start with India. Now, I thought Scott Boras brought up a great point yesterday. I don't know if you caught our interview with him at all yesterday or not. When we asked him specifically about India making a move from the infield to the outfield, he talked about another player he has in Minnesota, young player, talented player, that the Twins did that. The guy goes to the outfield and he gets hurt. So, do you think that we're going to see India, A, asked to move positions? B, do you think the Reds could or should entertain the idea of trading him?
Let's start on the position moving. I think it would be probably a mistake to try to do that in the middle of the season. I don't think that would be fair at all to Jonathan India. I think you need to give him a full offseason. I think if you're going to hold on to India, I think that probably would be a good move. I think you could probably get by with him this year as maybe a guy that plays half of his time at DH, half of his time at second base. And then you could put Ellie at third base and shortstop and McLean at shortstop and second base. That's what the Reds did or the Louisville Bats did with Ellie and McLean, is they would have Ellie play some at third base, some at shortstop, McLean play some at shortstop and some at second base. And it almost feels like that was setting up for this possibility later in the year. So I think that's probably what you would do this year, assuming you keep India. As far as trading Jonathan India, it's hard to know if that would be the right move or not without knowing what his value is. I have no idea what Jonathan India's value is. Is another team going to value Jonathan India as a fringe all-star second baseman? If that's the case, then I think you should probably entertain some trade offers for him. If teams aren't value him like that, they're saying he's probably long-term like an outfielder. He probably is not going to warrant enough trade value to move on. I think that the Reds shouldn't be in a rush to trade Jonathan India, but I also don't think they should be scared to trade Jonathan India. That's what the Reds have to do, in my opinion, moving forward, is they have to make some of these bold moves that to continue to stockpile talent and to continue to build a farm system that can sustain success. So this isn't a 1 or 2 year blip where the Reds are good and then they fall right back to the bottom of the division.
You bring up a very interesting point here, Nick, because, look, you follow baseball. You follow not only the Red system but other teams and what they're doing. And, generally the franchise that comes to mind that, has in the past, will without a doubt continue to do it in the future, is Tampa Bay. These are the kinds of decisions that the Rays are not afraid to address and make. It might be unpopular for a short while with the fan base, but, they have a good track record of doing this stuff. If you're going to make those bold moves, as you call them, and not afraid to be aggressive, and that's exactly what they are, bold moves, you just can't miss on the guys you're getting back, right?
Are another good example of a team that did that recently. Traded Corey Kluber at his peak value and got Emmanuel Clase back for him. Traded Francisco Lindor and got 2 starting position players that they have right now. You can't miss on them, but you do have to be bold. And I do feel like Tampa, though, and I know some people have pushed back on this before, I almost feel like they're in a better spot because their fan interest is so low in that area that they're able to get away with some of these moves that maybe a team like Cincinnati, where, they're not drawing tons of fans. There's a lot of people interested. There's definitely a lot more people in the region interested in the Reds. And that almost really works in Tampa's favor in a weird way. So I guess they kind of have that going for them.
Well, I mean, that is a spectacular point. There's no doubt about it because, my dad has argued for years and years and years that there shouldn't be a baseball team, period, in the state of Florida. I mean, Florida's got a lot of things you love about Florida, but apparently going to Major League Baseball games in that state is not one of them, even with a beautiful new stadium a couple years old down in Miami. You look at the Reds bullpen. First couple of weeks, they were terrible. Ever since then, and they've had some guys in and out, all that sort of thing. But now collectively, they have been, look at this. Holy Moses, what the hell just happened?
Big League Paul showed up.
Thank you, Paul. Well done.
Bravo. Yeah, we're off center, but we're here.
Big League Paul.
I don't know. Minor League Paul today.
MLP. The bullpen. It is they are pitching so well right now. And Young seems to pitch every single day, and he's one of those guys that wants the ball every single day when he's the only left-hander down there. I think to David Bell's credit, it's hard to manage when you only have one left-hander in the bullpen and trying to figure out when is the right time in the game to use him. I think they've done a nice job in that regard. You agree?
Yeah, this was a big series for Alex Young as the Red Sox, almost their entire lineup is lefties. That was definitely something that was glaring going into this series. But I tell you what, Buck Farmer has been really incredible over the last almost full calendar year. He went down to AAA towards the end of May last year, worked on some things, came back up, I believe it was like on July 9th last year, and he has just been dominant, sub-3 ERA since then. He has been a really, really nice find for the Reds. And then obviously Alexis Diaz and Lucas Sims are really good. It's just really nice that the Reds have at least like 4, and I maybe Jabot probably also should be in that category, 5 relievers that you feel good about when they come in. Haven't had that very often over the last couple years.
Well, you're spot on that. And the real question is, Nick, obviously, when most of the time, and I know Hunter Green had a lengthy outing, long for him anyway, in his most recent start in Chicago. He'll start again tonight. The question becomes, David Bell's got a quick hook, and he'll go to that bullpen early on, and they are being used a lot. They're either 1, 2, or 3 most innings pitched among all teams in baseball. Is how long can it last before they start to wear down? Does that concern you at all?
Yeah, I mean, no question. And there's not a ton of depth in the bullpen at AAA, to be honest. So that definitely is a concern as this year goes on. I do think David Bell has come a little bit in terms of extending his starting pitching. I know when he first took over in 2019, he had that really quick hook. And I honestly kind of changed my thinking along with David Bell. When he first took over as his manager, I was like, oh, I love this quick hook. I love, because the numbers clearly are, the more times the opposing team faces your starting pitcher 3-4 times, the better they get. But you have to weigh the taxing of the bullpen and the overall 162-game season into that. And I think David Bell has definitely improved in that management. I don't really feel like overall he's pulled the starters very often this year. I feel like almost every time he's pulled them, I've thought, yeah, it was time. Honestly, there maybe has been some times where he's left him in too long, but that also kind of goes into that whole trying to survive the 162.
Well, the other thing about it too, though, is Nick, is that those numbers, you're spot on. They will tell you one thing, and it's a great information is always great to have, but I've talked to guys who are starting pitchers in the big leagues for 30 plus years, and almost to a man, they'll tell you, if you're getting back in the old days, 32, 34, 35 starts, they're going to be about 7 or 8 where you got everything going. They're going to be about 7 or 8, and that will vary on the effectiveness overall of the pitcher, how good he is, where you got nothing. And it's what you do with the starts in between. But, when you're looking at some guys and now you're going through a third time in the batting order, I think what you might be seeing with Bell sometimes is the eye test, right? It might be the third time through the batting order, but on a particular night, there's a guy that's just got stuff going where you're like, you know what? These hitters are not seeing the ball. They're not seeing it well. They're not getting good swings. They're late on the fastball. They're uncomfortable with the breaking ball, whatever it might be. So I think you're seeing him starting to weigh the two a little bit. Is that fair?
Yeah, and there's also the analytical side in game where they can tell is the spin rate still at a certain rate throughout. So there's quantitative ways to actually measure in game as well to see how effective they are. There has to be so many different factors, I think, when you're determining pulling a starting pitcher versus not. And where the Reds are at with this bullpen that's been good, but I am concerned about the durability. I agree. He does, I think, need to be a little bit more aggressive, I guess, for lack of word, and keep pushing his starters a little bit deeper in the games just to kind of preserve that bullpen. And I think you'll also see that the Reds have also done a pretty good job this year of shuffling guys back and forth from AAA, like Silvino Bracco's just come up and down. And I think they'll continue to do that to kind of hopefully help steer the ship through June into July.
Okay, well, look. There's this very bright light coming out of the lighthouse that is Elly De La Cruz. He's basically knocking in a run per game at AAA. He's starting to walk a little bit more, not striking out as much as he was. I think that's one area they felt like they needed to see a little bit more improvement in as this AAA season has gone on. I mean, he's the whole package, at least to the minor league level. Everybody around here is screaming for him to come up. Do you think he's at Great American Ballpark tomorrow night?
I don't know. He's close. Matt McLain played 38 games at AAA. Elly is at 34. Christian Encarnacion Strand is at 33. So they're right at where McLain was when he got called up. I don't know. I go back and forth. I think one day, yeah, he'll probably be up this weekend. Another, I say, yeah, they'll probably hold him down a couple more weeks. I don't really see any reason for Elly to continue to stay in AAA. I don't really see any benefit to him. I don't really just see any flaws in his game that are that he can't work on in the big leagues. Christian Encarnacion Strand, I know you didn't ask me about him, but I'll just jump into him.
Please.
There was a clear deficiency in his game, which was walking. And he had only walked, I think, twice through his first 25, 26 games of the season. But over the last week, he has just walked every single night. And I think there's been a clear emphasis on Encarnacion Strand that he's got to prove his plate discipline. Because I think the Reds want to call these guys up, and they want them to stay. They don't want to shuffle them back and forth. And Christian Encarnacion Strand has been interesting. He's played exclusively first base over the last, or DH over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. He was playing a lot of third base. So I'm assuming they're also with him wanting to work a little bit more on his defense. But, yeah, I mean, both of those guys are as ready as you're going to get, I think, at this point. And, man, you're adding them to a lineup that is producing as well as the Reds are right now. And you have a pretty exciting lineup here for the rest of the season.
Well, you know, one of the things Scott Boras, and again, I just found some of the things he said yesterday to just be so interesting because he's been doing this for so long. He's got this enormous team of people that are not only involved in trying to aid players in their performance and what they do nutritionally and physically in concert with the teams and so forth. He said yesterday, I'm not a hitting coach. We're not a pitching coach. We're none of those things. People have those jobs. But from a mental standpoint, you know, he was talking about, I asked him, I said, you know, there are some people out there that say the number is fill in the blank. The number of innings pitched is fill in the blank. Plate appearances, fill in the blank. Before you can really start to make a determination on a player. He made the comment yesterday, which I found so interesting from a mental side, about all the things of being moved up to the major leagues. And ever since you were in T-ball, these guys have been everyday players, the best players on their teams at any level. And then all of a sudden the challenge is you bring them up to the major leagues, and with everything else going on around them, you're playing them 3 days a week or 4 days a week. You know, you just mentioned De La Cruz, Encarnacion Strand. If they were to bring these two guys up here, I mean, something's got to give if indeed you want guys playing 5 days a week. Something has to give. Steer's over at first. Senzel's over at third. Stevenson plays a little bit of first. Votto might be coming back. What does all that mean to Encarnacion Strand? Cruz you've got. McLain's playing short. Indy is at second base. Again, Senzel at third. I mean, where are you going to play these guys if you get them up here?
Yeah, I was actually looking through this last night, and the one player that has to suffer the most from this is Tyler Stevenson, because he's using the DH or first base spot a lot. Will Myers could return, and the Reds could fit all of these guys into the lineup, but the common denominator is Tyler Stevenson has to be exclusively a catcher. And that goes against what the Reds' entire plan was this year. The plan was only to play him about 60 times behind the plate and have him play first base and DH the rest of the time. So that's probably the internal weight that the Reds are weighing the most is, are we willing to bench Tyler Stevenson 2-3 times a week? And to this point, he hasn't really performed, but Tyler Stevenson was such a crucial part of this team, and his development is as important as probably just about anyone this year. So that maybe is, I think, probably the most difficult challenge that the Reds are weighing right now is just that. But one other point on Ellie, I think a lot of people forget, Ellie did not play his first game in the United States until 2021. I mean, this guy has flown through the system. The fact that he's even kicking down the door to the major leagues at this stage is really just incredible.
Well, one other guy I want to ask you about, and talking about, and look, I've been the guy on this show, right, wrong, good, bad, or indifferent, that has said it's not time yet to throw in the towel on Jose Barrero. Everything that Scott Boras talked about yesterday, and when you bring a guy up to the big leagues, the Reds have not done with this guy. I mean, in 2019, we're only talking about 3 seasons ago, this guy had a monster year in the minor leagues for the Reds, AA and AAA. He hits 19 home runs. He drives in nearly 70, has 20 doubles. Yeah, he struck out 2.5 to 1, hit over 300 on base percentage, over 380. And when they brought him to the big leagues, he was 23 years old, and whether he was ready for the big leagues or not, I don't know. But he went up and down in 2022. He only got 160 at-bats last year with the Reds. He's got 120 this year. They've changed him positions. I think it's too early to throw in the towel on him. I think the big advantage for him is that he has changed positions in an area where the Reds are not loaded with all these prospects. What are your thoughts on Barrero?
I do think Barrero has made some significant improvements this year. He looked about as bad as anyone last year when he got his chances with the Reds. And he definitely has made some strides. Now, is he where you want to be for a guy that you were hoping maybe could be a potential starting shortstop? Not yet, but I definitely agree. It's way too early to throw the talent on him. I think there's a good chance that at some point this year, I think Jose Barrero probably does get sent down for Ellie, and I think he goes to AAA, and I think they let him play shortstop every day for a while. But I think he's going to probably get another chance at some point this year. There's going to be injuries that happen. There might be trades that happen. And the fact that he can play center field, and I think he's looked pretty decent out there in center field, especially at Fenway Park, which is one of the more difficult. He had to come in for TJ Friedel the other night on Tuesday. That's a really difficult center field to play. And I think he's done a solid job out there. So I think the ability to play center field, to play shortstop, can give him more opportunities. And I think there will be another chance for him later this year. And hopefully, if he does go down to AAA, he can just tear the cover off the ball and really have some confidence coming up. Because last year, he didn't even do well in AAA. So when he came up, it was just kind of after the trade deadline, well, we got to give this guy a shot at this point. But he didn't really have anything going at that point. So you kind of hope that maybe he can start developing some confidence and come back and really just take off.
Well, if they send him back down to AAA, which may indeed happen, you could be spot on there. I think they would be making a colossal mistake by putting him back at shortstop. Because if there is one thing that is agreed upon, this franchise is overrun with talented middle infielders. who could be moved to corner infielders. They are not overloaded with big-time prospects in the outfield, at least not at the higher levels that are going to make an impact in the next year or two. So, I'd send Barrero back down there and figure out how to play everywhere in the outfield, because that's going to be his best shot if he has a legitimate shot to ever be a productive major league player. We'll see how that goes. Nick, I know you'll be back at it tonight right here on Chatterbox Sports. So we thank you, as always, for your time. Great to see you, my friend. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Nick Kirby, he's the best. I mean, they had Trace cracking open a beer the other night. Nick was wondering what's going on.
When they win.
Well, I know, but I mean, it was cool the other night because all of a sudden Trace races back to the fridge or whatever he's got going on down there.
Yeah.
Does Nick ever crack open a beer? He doesn't, does he?
I've never seen it.
I haven't
only
seen
Trace.
it. Yeah.
All right, Ham and Eggers, time for a timeout.
Okay, hold on a second.
Oh, boy.
Wait, I got to
We
find.
might be on for 9 hours.
No, that's not true. All right, we're good. We're
All right,
good.
here we go. Ham and Eggers, Mr. President.
It's that time of the show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
All right, Elliot, you're up on the ads here.
Oh, I'm up?
You're up, man.
So I got it. So I'm going to, little inside baseball, there's a glare on that ad.
You're going to have to roll through it. Roll with the punches.
So the Bengals and Bearcats report.
Pick one. Pick what? We're talking. We have Justin on today, so we're talking Bearcats.
Okay.
So it's a Bearcats report.
Okay. So the Bearcats report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work from home computing models to improve efficiency and productivity. Visit Encore Tech. The path to innovation begins here.
Everybody.
That was horrible.
That's okay. Everybody's screaming that they can't hear you, but they can hear me, and I have everything set the same way.
Oh no.
Hold on. Everything's the same. Everything's the same. Oh wait, hold on. Try talking now.
Testing.
There we go.
That sounds better.
I think that might be better.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, do you want to read the Encore.tech ad again?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Sounds great.
Let's roll through it again.
Okay. So the Bearcats report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work from home computing models to improve efficiency and productivity. Visit Encore Tech. The path to innovation begins here. I think the second one was a little bit better. It was still not good.
So I'm going to grade it a 7 out of 10 because it's Encore.tech.
Okay.
So that's where people need to go to visit when they want to buy their Encore stuff.
Yeah, and some inside baseball here again. Nobody has ever done more with less help than Paul right now. Paul has put on his Superman cape.
Well,
he's playing hero ball.
Okay, so
he's looking at me, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Okay, well, so I'm wondering if your mic is like unplugged because everything is set up the way it should be. Like I know how the microphones are supposed to be set up, and everything's set up the right way.
Okay.
So everything is set up the right way. So something might be unplugged.
So that didn't get over the air there.
Well, I don't know what's wrong. Everything's right.
You can vaguely hear him, but I think it's coming through your mic. We'll figure this out. Let's have fun.
It's right.
All right, talking to your mic.
Testing. Do we got me?
People hear me and they don't hear him. Is it plugged in?
No, he should be fine. I don't know. Just push through.
All right.
We're gonna have to put a mic in the middle here.
We're good. We're good.
I walked out of here. What the hell's going on?
Well,
I mean, seriously.
I'm not trying to silence
Yourself?
I'm not trying to silence Elliot, but for some reason people couldn't hear him.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so people hear me. So
it's just not me.
It might be that you need to be closer to it legitimately might be that you need to be closer to the mic.
Okay. What about now?
Okay, yeah, that
You want to try that?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you were just too far away from the mic.
Too far away from the mic?
That's fine.
Okay.
All right. So I thought I had it right. I thought I
PB's
had
Goes
it right.
calls you to the Abbott
right.
and Costello meeting Frankenstein show over there.
Look, sometimes, Tom, you gotta have a little. We're having some fun today. We're having some fun. All right. No, we're good. It was just, I thought I had it right. We're good. That's all. We're all on the same page.
Like Bacon says it's chaos.
Okay, so hold on. We still
Ryan
got.
says, Tom, you walked out, it fell apart.
Hold on. Elliot's got to tell us about Pawnee Water. Scroll back down.
Oh, okay. All right.
Come on, Elliot. Here
right.
we go. Ham and egger.
All right. There is a new premium alkaline water out, Pawnee, and I have to tell you, this stuff tastes great. Made in Hamilton, Ohio, Pawnee uses natural limestone filtration.
They've just pulled the plug on the sponsorship.
Unlike the artificial processing that many other brands use, the result is a healthy alkaline water that is also the best tasting water in the world. Visit their website at pawneewater.com. That's pawneewater.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. I felt really good about that ad read. That one was my best one.
Everett said if there was ever an ad against sending your kids to college, that was it. The pride of Elder High.
That's
we have sitting in here today. Yes. I am the only member of public education.
There we go.
We have all the elites in here today. We have the East Coast Liberal Elite.
That's right.
BLP, Elliott, West Side Elite,
Altiora,
Elder High, and we have Jacob St. X Elite.
Boo.
By the way, the Bombers yesterday, big win in lacrosse, advancing on to the state championship game, beating Upper Arlington for the second time this year. That was an overtime win, so good for them. And yes, my guys got beat. I can't remember who pointed it out, but they were following Twitter yesterday. Luke played well. His teammates played well. It was a better team. They got beat in the state semis last night.
It looked. We were following along on Twitter. It looked like, I mean, every time the Marymount AD tweeted something, it was something about Brenneman. Yeah, Brenneman played pretty good last night. He's a gamer, man. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's a gamer. But there are a lot of gamers on that team, and it was a fun ride. And I'm going to have him, of course, coming up, as I did my daughter on a podcast, and have him on once he gets through his whole graduation final parties this coming weekend. And we'll have him on one day next week. Kind of a recap of high school and looking to the future at Indiana University. Did you see the predictions made by Sports Illustrated? Yeah, where's Casey when we need him?
Well, I mean, these guys are dialed in on the Bengals.
No, I know, but I mean on the positivity. To have this kind of a prediction and to not have Casey sitting here to react to it?
It is hard to believe. You know, if you didn't see it in the bold predictions from Sports Illustrated about this upcoming football season, the Bengals are picked to not only play in the Super Bowl, they are picked to win the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow will throw 40 or more touchdowns this year and be the league's most valuable player. Jamar Chase named the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year. Those are two different awards. Elliot, thoughts, if any, on those predictions by Sports Illustrated?
I think they're pretty accurate. Back-to-back AFC Championship game appearances. Bengals just signed the Chiefs' best offensive lineman, I'd argue. So
I would say that's a pretty good argument.
Yeah, so I like our chances. I think we certainly have a better wide receiver core than them.
Oh, no doubt about it. But they had a better wide receiver core than them last year.
And that's I would say the only argument. Patrick Mahomes, he needs a little bit more help. We got an aging Travis Kelce, still the best tight end in the league, obviously. But I like the Bengals to win. I like the Bengals to win the AFC Championship, head back to the Super Bowl.
BLP?
Look, I'm not going to argue with that. It's just nice to what would we be sitting? I feel
Jacob,
like
get over there and sit down. We'll get your thoughts on
I
this.
feel like I should put the hat on and say what Casey would be thinking here. It's just nice to be getting some respect around the league, Tom.
Would you rather be the underdog though? Would you rather be the favorite or the underdog?
I think at this point you'd rather be the favorite.
Yeah.
I think at this point now, after the Bengals have shown what they've shown over the last couple of seasons, I think you'd rather be the favorite.
But you see what happened with the Broncos. They were at like 15 primetime games. They scored a total of 4 points in those 15 games. So I a little bit less of the primetime games for us. I like being an underdog. I love it. But obviously we're not. So
hey,
just have to settle being the best.
Elliot, we need your take here. Are the Bengals worse or better than the end of the season? Are they better right now than they were at the end of the season?
Oh yeah, they're better.
That's
much better.
That's the right answer.
They're much better.
Tom, do you?
I'm not sure about that, but I mean, we're going to find out. I think there are definite questions, as we've talked about. Nobody can make me believe they're better at safety, because they're not. They're definitely not better at safety. Now, will these other guys have the potential to be great players back there or really good players back there? I think we all agree they have that possibility. I don't. The jury's out. We'll see what happens with this number 1 pick. They need a better pass rush. So at least having Murphy there potentially, Osai another year, Carter another year, etc., potentially they could be better there. I think they're more athletic at tight end, but Hurst was more dependable at tight end. Stayed healthy, by and large. And look, skill position players, they did a great job in the draft. But you got to wait and see how it plays out. Now, you go to all the games when you're in town, right, Jacob?
Yeah, I do.
All right, so what do you think? You like those predictions, or you think, man, that's a lot?
I like the predictions a lot. I obviously have bets out and the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, Joe Burrow to win the MVP, all that stuff. So it would be nice to have all those cash. I like the predictions, but I would push back a little bit on the Bengals being definitively better this year. I agree with you. Safety's a big position. We're going to have effectively a rookie in Dax Hill, who didn't really play last year. Jordan Battle maybe has more experience than Dax. He played 3 years as a starter at Alabama. I think he's going to be able to plug and play very well in that Von Bell role. But I do have questions about safety and corner. We're going to have to walk rookie corners out there. Is Chidobe Awuzie going to be 100% week 1? Eli Apple's gone. Say what you will about him, but he's been a starter on this team.
No doubt.
Playing decent football. So, I don't know. I do have some worries about our back
Jacob,
end.
pull the microphone a little closer to you.
My bad.
Yeah, you're good.
I do have some questions about our back end and Irv Smith's availability at tight end, but we addressed the O-line, we addressed the pass rush. I'm happy with our offseason. I think we're going to be good.
Now, for those who don't know, Jacob is the video guy for Alabama football. He's still a student down there. And so, he's at every practice. He goes to every game for the Crimson Tide. So, Battle, good dude, gamer.
Oh,
you like
absolutely.
him?
Absolutely. One of the best. First one in, last one out kind of guy. Always in the film room. Coaches didn't have anything but great things to say about him. They all know that I'm a big Bengals fan. So the day after the draft, when we were in the facility, they were like, "Oh, you got Jordan. Like, good looks for you guys. Love to see that." So very exciting. I'm really excited for him. He's my favorite pick out of the whole draft class.
Nice. All right, there you go. Sweet home Alabama. We're getting some solid feedback on you guys. I mean, it's, shaky group, but hanging in there. Hanging in there. Look, this is, if you want to, this is one of the things that, and I know we talk about Tom Brady all the time, but this is what you want when you're building a powerhouse team and franchise. You want the expectations there. They're already the expectations in the facility down there. All right? The Bengals players aren't walking around shying away from being predicted to win a Super Bowl, being predicted to be an MVP, being predicted to be an Offensive Player of the Year. Those are goals Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, the entire team have. And they are realistic goals. Now, to execute them, we know is very, very tough. And that's why when you see teams and a sustained length of extraordinary excellence by what New England did, right? That's what you want the Bengals to become. Is that realistic? I don't know if it is in today's NFL. I don't know. But, that's why I don't get wrapped up in the whole Burrow's the next Brady, Mahomes the next Brady. Mahomes is certainly on that kind of trajectory, at this point, right? He's already played in 3 Super Bowls and won 2. But just getting there is so hard. And for what New England was able to do for so long, and even when Brady took his act down there to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl, but this is what the Bengals want. They want people looking at them like that is the team to beat. And if we're going to get to a Super Bowl in the AFC, that's a team sooner or later we're going to have to beat. I think it's really exciting for the franchise. I can never remember in all my years growing up, and I could be wrong, but I'm old enough to remember I was a senior in high school when Kenny Anderson and that bunch went to the Super Bowl, and then years later when Boomer and that bunch went to the Super Bowl, I was working at Channel 5. I never remember any expectations for the Bengals the following year off of a Super Bowl, which they didn't get there last year. But I never remember the expectations to be for any franchise in this town, Reds included. I don't ever remember the expectations like the Bengals have right now. Elliot, you're a Cincinnati guy. You agree with that?
No, I absolutely agree with that. We're at an all-time high of expectations for the Cincinnati Bengals and Cincinnati sports in general. Well, I don't think anybody's ever been. Also, we haven't seen this level of success in so long here. 1990 was the last real chance. So
yep.
I as much as the pressure is on the Bengals, I think it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate, and the town loves it. The town loves the pressure.
Town loves it. It's spot on. The Big Red Machine, everybody and his brother. I mean, anybody could have picked them after winning in 75 to say, oh, I like their chances in 76. But a lot of people really like their chances in 77 after they swept the Yankees in a 4-game series. And, of course, that group, as we know them, the Big Red Machine, never went to another World Series. So you just don't know. So when you get that chance, you've got to do it. I mean, I was there every day like many of you watching that 2012 Reds team. They were the best team in the National League. The best team. Now, in that series against the Giants, Game 1, Cueto gets hurt. So now it messes up the whole rotation, the way you've got it all set up with Latos and Arroyo and everybody coming in and trying to fill holes and Mike Leake and, there was a lot going on there. But the bottom line was, even when Cueto got hurt in Game 1, they won the first 2 games of the series. They had not lost 3 games in a row all year long at home. So in a best of 5, they're coming back home up 2-0. All you got to do is win 1. We know what happened. They got their chance. And for the Bengals, they got that first taste of it in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They got their chance. Couldn't quite get it. Last year, having to go on the road to Kansas City, AFC Championship game. Couldn't quite get there. And you could get into any number of reasons. But now is the time for this team if they're going to do it. Now is the time. Jason Williams. I get Jason as a columnist at Cincinnati.com. We got Justin Williams from the Athletic
site
coming up here shortly to talk a little bit about UC. And, the more and more you read, and, we'll get his expertise here in a matter of moments. The more and more you read about what's going on there with the basketball program and the football program, and I know a lot of us, me included, are easy to say, well, they're going in the Big 12. They're going to struggle in everything for a little while, compared especially to playing in the American Athletic Conference. But, look, another thing, these are now incremental steps. And I'm going to ask Justin about, I don't think people realized, and there were a lot of people around here, many of you on the chat, many of you watching right now, that were all over Wes Miller's ass last year. A lot of people. When you go back and look at the mess he has had to try and clean up around that basketball program and athletic department, really since Mick Cronin walked out the door, right? But, John Brannon God bless him. As a guy, I really like the guy. I don't know all the ins and outs and what happened down there and all that kind of thing, but obviously it did not turn out well. The AD leaves, new guy comes in, and Miller's trying to pick up all the pieces. And to now see kind of where they're going. And remember, they gave him a contract extension last year. Just compare that for a second, if you will, to Sean Miller over at Xavier. Now, when Sean Miller took over this program the first time, I mean, the foundation had been laid, coach after coach after coach. Xavier never missed on a coach. They never missed. It was unbelievable. I would argue better than any college basketball program in the history of the NCAA. And I really mean that. They never, and I'm not talking about some guy that stayed for 21 years and won 5 national championships. I'm talking about coaches come into Xavier, they hang around a while, bang, off they go. Ohio State, wherever it is they're going, right? All those coaches built up that foundation for Sean to take over the first time a really rock-solid program with good players and winning, sustained winning and success. He kept that tradition alive. Off he goes to Arizona. No one could ever blame him for that. In Arizona, he walks into a situation, one of the top 7-8 basketball programs in the country. And again, they were a little down, but he, really took him to higher heights, never won the whole thing. But then he comes back to Xavier. Now, the Travis Steele era, not meeting Xavier fans' expectations, clearly. But they had some nice pieces. He brings in some guys here and there. All of a sudden, they're back in the tournament, and he's got it rolling down there. But this situation with Wes Miller, and a pleasure to be joined by Justin Williams from The Athletic. Justin, good morning. Thanks for your time today. How's everything with you?
I'm good. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing good. Why can't I hear him?
You can hear him now.
I can hear him now. All right, Justin, thanks so much for the time. We were just talking, Justin, about I love the article you wrote a couple days ago in The Athletic that this is now Wes Miller's team. Hadn't been easy getting there, has it, in just 2+ years?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously inherited a pretty difficult situation when he was hired in the wake of John Brannon's firing. And this is his technically third off season, his second full off season, but there's only one player now on the roster that he didn't recruit. That's Victor Locken. Everyone else, every other scholarship player on this roster are players that he brought in, whether high school prospects or transfers. And so I think they finally reached a point, especially this past offseason, with some really talented, impressive transfers, at least on paper. And so when you look at kind of the roster, I think it fits exactly what he wants to do in terms of the players he's picked and kind of the versatility and some of the talent he's added. I think it shows some of the good things he's done as a coach, but it's also elevated the expectations for him entering his third season and entering the Big 12.
All right, well, I want to ask you a couple of questions about him and this whole thing in particular. When you're starting to look at the kind of players he's bringing in, whether it be high school, and that sustains a program over the long haul, or now the advent of the transfer portal where you get guys in, the Utah Valley, big guy, so on and so forth. From a style of play standpoint, and I don't think it would be fair to say we've seen really what a Wes Miller team might look like because you point out they weren't his guys. But based on what you're seeing, what style of play do you think we will see as time goes by from Wes Miller?
Yeah, that's interesting. When he came over from UNC Greensboro, he had been kind of a full court pressing defensive mindset coach. And that was a big part of his identity was press, create turnovers, and kind of your offense flows from your defense. They haven't really been able to play the style of defense that he's wanted to since he came in his first 2 seasons. And honestly, I don't know that the roster he has now lends itself to that pressing, full court tempo type of style, at least defensively. It kind of felt that way with some of the recruits he was bringing in, Jizzle James, Rayvon Griffith. But then some of the transfer portal additions they've made, I don't know that will necessarily be their strong suit, certainly for every lineup. But I think what you have seen him do is bring in versatility. So, maybe CJ Frederick and Simus Lukosius, two transfers they brought in this offseason, really talented offensive players, maybe not, the best perimeter defenders. But then you bring in Aziz Bandago, the Utah Valley, 7-footer that you referenced, who's just a complete, eraser at the rim. Great shot blocker, great rim protector, great defensive presence in the paint. And so I think you saw him address, all right, so maybe perimeter defense won't be our strong suit with certain lineups, but we're going to have a guy in the middle who is going to make it absolutely difficult if you do get into the paint to score and get easy buckets. And so I'm kind of curious to see, does he try to finally get into that pressing defense in year 3, or does he realize even with this lineup that I've picked, that might not be the strong suit, so we're going to shift that a little bit. Offensively, he's always been, kind of a get out and run when you can, a long leash, right? I think Cincinnati fans remember how maybe much of a short leash Mick Cronin had offensively with players. If you take a bad shot or you have a turnover, they're walking over to the bench before Mick even grabs the substitute to come in. That's not the way Wes operates offensively. He gives players a longer leash offensively to, take quick shots or maybe make some mistakes as long as they're putting in the effort on the defensive end. And I think that'll be the biggest thing, whether they're pressing or however they play. He has the players in place that he's picked and that he wants. And so I think he's going to need to see that effort and that play on the defensive end to allow them to continue to kind of have that longer leash offensively.
See, to me, and look, both my folks went to the University of North Carolina. My sister and I were born down there. We used to go to North Carolina basketball games a lot as a kid. To me, I look at his roster. I'm with you compared to the UNC Wilmington thing, but to me, his roster looks a lot like the Dean Smith, Roy Williams kind of style of play, where you've got really good guards, very athletic. You've got potentially, especially in some of these younger players, scorers, but then you've got some big guys that can do a lot of things. You wouldn't ask them to be obviously at the midcourt in a full court press, but they're at the back end back there and they can block a shot if a team gets a 2-on-1, 3-on-1. To me, they resemble, at least right now, they're not there yet, and I'm not comparing them to any North Carolina teams. But wouldn't it just be natural to assume his heritage in playing basketball at Carolina and coaching under Roy, that's probably where they're going to go? Or do you think that he's a little bit different in that regard?
I think he has his own spin on it, but you're right. They have some talented big guys this season, even offensively. And so, historically, Dean Smith, Roy Williams, they've loved to play through the post. Now, basketball is a different, game, even than Wes Miller was playing at North Carolina under Roy Williams, kind of the Sean May type of guy he played with. Yep. It's more prevalent in college than it is in the NBA, but it's still changed, a lot with the, kind of the 3-point shooting and guard-dominated offenses. But that's something that I think they have the capability of doing, that secondary break, which was so famous, under Dean Smith and Roy Williams at North Carolina. That's a big part of, Wes Miller's transition offense, having that trailing big guy and, passing it back and moving into the flow offense. So all of those pieces, you're right, are definitely part of that. The other thing that's interesting, though, is we still don't have some answers on this roster. There's still some guys, the Utah Valley, Aziz Bandago. Will he get a waiver to play immediately? Same thing with Jameel Reynolds, another big from Temple. So there are still some questions that this roster has to answer, even before we get into the season, in terms of who's available, what kind of lineups will they have. And so I think he's going to have some work to do in terms of who does he have at his disposal, and then what's the best way to highlight them.
So, Justin, help me with this for a second, because, this college basketball, college sports world has gotten so weird with the transfer portal, and you don't have to sit out a year, and, players getting paid and NIL and everything. The team is back. You made reference. The basketball team is back to begin summer workouts. Are the guys that have not been given that official sign-off, are they not allowed to be here right now?
They are, and they're allowed to practice, but they don't know yet whether they have that waiver for immediate eligibility to actually play this season. So the way it's been done in the past is those waivers can be unsettled up until like October, honestly. And, that can be because the NCAA gives a decision and then they can, argue that decision and kind of go back and forth and try and get a player cleared. We're talking specifically about, I think, only two players, Aziz and Jameel Reynolds, because they are undergraduates who have made a second transfer. So a kid like CJ Frederick, local kid, he's played at Iowa, he's played at Kentucky, but he's a graduate transfer coming into Cincinnati. So he can play right away, even though he's had multiple transfers. But yeah, these other players, the NCAA has made it clear they don't want to give waivers for second transfers for undergraduate players, even if they're, making arguments about it being best for their mental health. Now, I'm curious to see how much does the NCAA stick to that? Are they going to be willing to deny every single second transfer who's saying maybe that his mental health factored in the move? I don't know. I'm curious to see that. But for Cincinnati, there's at least two players who are definitely going to be interested to see if they can get that second waiver. And if they do, it's going to have a huge impact on their team. And obviously, if they don't, it'll have kind of a different impact, right? Because it limits the rotation. It limits the players that you have available. And even though they can practice and be with the team all season, they can't step out on the floor. So in addition to the new transfer portal ads that have come in this offseason for the next couple months, one of the storylines is going to be, do those two big guys get the immediate waiver for eligibility?
All right, let's get to the immediate sport that will be played, at least one that gets the most attention around there, and that's football. Again, much like the basketball team, good recruiting classes since Satterfield steps in the building, right? Very good success in the transfer portal, goes through the spring. What are your thoughts about what the state of the program is, for lack of a better term, ever since Luke Fickell has left?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, we're talking less than 18 months ago, this team was playing in the college football playoff against Alabama in the Cotton Bowl. And, at that point, there was a pretty good – they knew they were going to the Big 12. There's a pretty good idea it was going to happen this season. And if you're asking Cincinnati fans then, what's your expectation going into the Big 12? It's compete right away and win championships. That's shifted a little bit with Fickell leaving and some of the coaching transition and roster overhaul. I think to call it a rebuild is unfair, but there's definitely kind of a reset going on with football because of the coaching change. This is the only team in the Big 12 this season that underwent a head coaching change this offseason. And there's a lot of transition and adjustments that come with that. I think the hope now, maybe right away, isn't competing for Big 12 championships, but it's more, can this team go out and be competitive week in and week out and maybe get to bowl eligibility this first season. The schedule does set up pretty nicely for them. I think the concern, just looking at spring football, looking at the roster, is in most spots, this is a power conference Big 12 team, up and down the depth chart on that first line, the starters. I think you have power conference starters, especially on defense, which I think could be really good. The concern for me, and maybe the biggest question for me, is if guys get hurt, if you have to go into that second and third string defense, offense, especially, offensive line, do you have players that can compete at that Power 5 level? Maybe they're not ready yet. Maybe they just need a couple years. They're young guys. But I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for a team that in the American Athletic Conference was almost always more talented, more experienced than the teams they were going up against. That's not going to be the case anymore. And so do they have the depth and the backups to compete when the first line guys get hurt? And I think that will be something they can develop over the next couple of years. But in year one, especially after the coaching transition, I think can be really tough.
I got to be honest with you, Justin. I hear a lot of talk about Big 12, and we know about basketball, but, Big 12 football. I have a daughter that's in college down at TCU, and they had the miracle run last year. They get to the national championship. So the last couple of years, I've watched a lot of Big 12 football, and especially TCU. And, I also watch a lot of UC football. Now, when you're trying to evaluate UC football in the American Athletic Conference, maybe it's very difficult to do, and I'm no expert on anything. Just ask my wife. I'm not an expert on any single thing in life in the world, except being a jerk. But, I got to tell you, Big 12 football is good. I don't know if maybe some of us are saying that it's too good. Let's be honest about it. Nobody from a million miles away saw TCU coming to play in the Final Four, just like UC the season before. There are good teams in the Big 12. There's no doubt. And traditionally speaking, especially Oklahoma, not so much Texas. I mean, they find a way to lay an egg all the time. But, I mean, there are some other schools, the majority of schools in that league. I'm not so sure at the end of the day that UC could be that far behind. You agree with that?
Definitely. I think if you're looking at, teams like Kansas and Iowa State that, Kansas had a good year last year, but, I think this is a team that Cincinnati certainly has been better than the past few years and could be just as good as this season. And, a team like Oklahoma State, which has consistently been really good in the Big 12, you look at how they finished the year last year. They kind of fell apart. They've had a bunch of talent leave via the transfer portal. So I don't think Cincinnati's going to go in and be overmatched in a ton of games. I'm really curious that opening game against Oklahoma in Nippert Stadium to kick off the Big 12. How do they match up? How do they look? I think the bigger problem for Cincinnati is how do they respond playing a higher caliber team week after week?
Yeah.
Because even the past couple of years when they went to the Peach Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, they would have games against South Florida, Navy, Tulsa, teams like that where they didn't play their best, but because they were more talented and more experienced, they were able to pull out a win in the end. That's not going to happen against Kansas and Iowa State and Baylor and teams like that. If you don't play very well, you're probably not going to win, especially, the first couple of years they're in the Big 12. So I don't think they're going to go in and be this overmatched program. But I do think the grind of a tougher conference schedule week in and week out is going to be a different beast for them. It might take a year or two to get used to.
I want to ask you lastly, and thank you for your time today. I want to ask you lastly about this extended piece that you wrote about the former athletic director at UC, most recently the athletic director at USC, where he just stepped down, and Mike Bone. And for those that want to read it, it is an unbelievable story and about some of the things that Bone has done or not done at USC, things he did or didn't do at UC. After I finished reading this, I got to be honest with you, Justin, I said to myself, the biggest takeaway that I came from that is, who in the hell are the people that are making the decisions to hire the guy or keep the guy? I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world to go find, things that people do well or don't do well. I think all of us have those things, and he proved that in a lot of ways he did some very important things not very well. He did some other things very, very well. But at the end of the day, I mean, did you find yourself asking the question, and you acknowledged it in the SC, more of a search engine kind of a place, and they couldn't dig into maybe some of the stuff that was going on at UC because they didn't want anybody to know that they were thinking about hiring him. But I just walked away and I thought to myself, UC, USC, who is overseeing this mess?
I think you're right. I think part of the piece, and not specific to Mike Bone, is the hiring process, search firm process in college athletics, whether that's athletic directors or coaches. Honestly, it's not quite as quick with athletic directors, but you look at these major coaching hires that are made in college football and basketball. A coach leaves, and within 48 hours, 72 hours, sometimes they're hiring the replacement for them. Is that really enough time to kind of do the digging that you need for these multi-million-dollar major decisions? And with athletic director, you're right. This is someone who, if you asked around at Cincinnati, and it came up in our reporting, whether it was someone that was a supporter, of Mike Bone, or whether it was someone that was a detractor, I think there was pretty much universal surprise when he got the job at USC, just because of the type of personality he had and maybe some of the way people knew that he interacted, and maybe that could have been a better fit at Cincinnati or Colorado than it was at a place like USC, which is, a fishbowl, a little bit more of a progressive university. But when we really dug in, and I wrote this with Bruce Feldman and Nicole Auerbach, I think the biggest thing that came out of it was this was a person who was under investigation at Cincinnati at the time that he left. And whether USC knew about that or not, they probably didn't, because like you said, it was an ongoing investigation. They couldn't dig in as much as they probably wanted to, because you're trying not to raise alarm bells about candidates and things like that. But there were clearly issues that he had at Cincinnati that had bubbled up even before he went to USC. And so when these similar issues happen at USC within the past 3 years, well, sure, it all makes a ton of sense when you're looking back and seeing he was under investigation for some similar things at Cincinnati. And so I think that's a criticism that could be levied at USC, a criticism that could be levied against the search firm, a criticism that could be levied against Cincinnati. But the biggest takeaway from all of that is we're probably not doing the due diligence we need to with these major decisions when hiring people.
Last thing I want to ask you about. In The Athletic today, it was a very interesting story about the transfer portal and tampering. I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet this morning. Boy, in this whole madness of college sports, NIL, all these other sorts of things, and the story basically in a nutshell started with the University of South Carolina last year is ranked at the end of the season in the top 25 for the first time since Steve Spurrier was there, right? And they had a good year. And their leading rusher, their second leading rusher, their leading tackler for loss, and their leading sacker, after meeting with the head coach at South Carolina, within 2 or 3 days, coach doesn't see this coming, within 2 or 3 days, all 4 of those guys enter the portal. And within 2 or 3 days after that, every single one of them has announced where they're going to school. Are you starting to hear that this could become a major issue, if it's not a major issue already in college sports?
Yeah, it's a major issue already, and it happens across the board. It's one of those things where it's hard for certain coaches or schools to point the finger because, sure, they probably have experienced this where, they've had players who have been tampered with. But there's also a good chance that maybe they're doing the same thing and trying to turn around and pull players from other teams. I've heard stories. I think it's pretty widespread now that team recruiting scouting departments look at tape of, players that aren't even in the portal. And if they feel like they really like them and they have a chance or a connection to get them, that then you kind of go through those back channels of it's an NIL agent or a high school coach or something like that. So this has now kind of become a widespread known issue within college sports. And I don't know that there's a way to change it. I think the changes they've made to the transfer portal, there's a lot of positives to that. But one of the negatives is you can kind of convince a kid, whether it's with NIL money or opportunity, who's not in the transfer portal to jump in and then come join this program. Again, through some back channels in ways that aren't obvious. I don't know that there's a way to put that toothpaste back in the tube at this point. I think it's just something that programs are going to have to adjust and deal with, and very well could have been things that programs were kind of doing even more clandestine and under the table before the transfer portal and NIL and all this stuff happened. But it's absolutely something that, whether it's a group of 5 program or kind of just that lower second tier Power 5 program, it's something they're going to have to deal with. If you identify and evaluate and develop the right players and they play really well for you, there's a very good chance that they're going to be looking to go somewhere else in the transfer portal and in the off season. And unless some big sweeping change is made, I don't necessarily see a way to stop that moving forward.
Justin, can't thank you enough for your time this morning. Thank you so very, very much for your expertise. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
All right, Justin Williams from The Athletic. We talk about The Athletic all the time. I'm a paid subscriber, but if you're into sports, man, they got it all covered. And that article that we were just wrapping up talking about was in The Athletic this morning. And as the SEC coaches are meeting, I think in Florida, Jacksonville, I think is where they are. They're having those meetings. Anyway, this was a topic that came up because of the South Carolina coach. A lot of other, schools out there want to swoop up some of these SEC guys that aren't necessarily getting a lot of playing time there, and maybe could you help fill in the blank? And the article pointed out that the only coach that has actually called somebody out by name on this stuff is Pat Narduzzi up at Pitt. He had his wide receiver, Jordan Addison. Great player, right? All of a sudden, out the door, he goes to USC. And he calls out Lincoln Riley by name. Narduzzi was asked yesterday, do you regret naming Lincoln Riley in public? His answer, hell no. But until you can prove it, and they talked about, some of the things that go on, sort of through the channels, as Justin alluded to. One of them they talked about how you can't maybe you can't for sure contact the kid directly. But what you can do is, or what has happened, is if you were recruiting him originally, or even if you weren't, you might call his high school coach. And you might say, hey, how's Tom Brenneman like it down there at the University of Florida? They didn't get a lot of playing time last year. Or, they just brought in this guy, and, they might get a chance to play ahead of him. What do you think? High school coach maybe stays in touch with the player, says, hey, just talked to Joe Blow from blank university. They were asking about you. Oh, okay. Well, now all of a sudden the kid is starting to think of, instead of, boy, I'm going to go out and compete for this job at Florida, Alabama, Ohio State, wherever. All of a sudden they're like, man, looks pretty good out there at SC. Sunshine, pretty girls, got it going on. Lincoln Riley slinging it around. Right?
That's right.
If you were in the portal tomorrow and go play football anywhere, where would you go?
Does Pepperdine have a football team?
I don't think so, but I'd go there too.
Yeah.
That place is phenomenal.
Yeah. Dorms on the beach. I'll take Pepperdine. Let's create a football team there.
Come on. Where would you go?
Go to play football tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go to USC. If I was really good, I'd probably go to Alabama.
All right.
Miami. I think they'd pay me more.
Ooh.
Everett says Oregon. Everett, are you kidding me? Oregon? Jacob, where would you go?
He'd go to Ohio State.
You better not let Nick. I know Nick Saban watches this show from time to time. Sir Boy Wonder, naturally, Ohio State. Drew Garrison, Michigan, not a chance. Not a chance. Alex Wallace, give me a break. Everett says, have you seen the athletes at Oregon? Yeah, I see them get their ass kicked every time they play somebody good.
UConn. Big 12.
Of course, this would vary on the sport.
What?
No, it would vary on the sport.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we were talking football in this case. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of good places out there. A lot of good places. Kent State, says the former player, the player formerly known as Mouse Cop. The Kent State, what are they, the Golden Flashes?
Yeah.
That's right.
I remember them from my Mid-American Conference days. That's where Sean Casey's son is a big star.
Yeah.
Are they in the NCAA tournament?
I don't know who the max auto bid was. Reed would know.
I think it's Ball State, isn't it?
Yeah, it was Ball State. You're right.
Yeah.
It was Ball State. You're right.
Ball State.
Ball State got the MAC auto bid. Yep.
Ohio, you must have been under suspension or something for them not to have won that.
Likely.
Okay. Evan Maurer says Louisville. Oh, Louisville.
Man, Louisville.
Tom, do you have a favorite college that you broadcasted from?
You mean a venue?
Venue, yes.
Trying to think. I tell you, one of the coolest games I ever did. Look, I've done games Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, not outside of that, because I was only doing the Big Ten network for the first couple of years. But I tell you what is a really cool place is Iowa. That is a really cool place to watch a game.
They've got the hospital right there, right?
The Children's Hospital, and during the game, all the fans and the players acknowledge the kids who are looking through their hospital room windows. It's the single most beautiful tradition of anywhere in college sports. It brings tears to your eyes. But I mean, they love their football up there. And look, they've had a great run of success for a long, long time. Hayden Fry took them to a bunch of Rose Bowls, top 5, top 10. You know, Farron's has kind of been up and down. But, I mean, it's the only game in town up there. And it's a great stadium, really nice campus. I mean, look, if you want to be overwhelmed with 115,000, 120,000 fans, Ohio State, Michigan, you know, I wish I had a chance to do a game at Penn State in that conference because I hear that's lights out.
Yeah.
Never been there. You got a favorite? You been to a bunch of them or no?
I haven't been to a ton of college football. So I went to the University of Toledo first. We were talking about that yesterday a little bit. Glass Bowl. I love the Glass Bowl at Toledo.
Yep.
Obviously, Nippert's phenomenal. I'm trying to think. What about? I haven't been here, but whenever I play, what's the video game?
NCAA football.
Yeah. So I would always play at Boise. I just love the blue field.
Ah.
I would always play at Boise.
I have been there before.
Yeah, you called an iconic game there, right?
Well, it wasn't there. I went there when they were practicing to get ready for that Fiesta Bowl that they won against Oklahoma in Phoenix. But I actually went to that stadium. It's pretty cool.
Is it true that birds will dive down thinking it's water?
That's what I'm told.
Okay. And is there a bird guy? Is there a bird guy that cleans the birds?
I think they do something. I think they have something that they send. I don't know if it's a signal or some kind of a sound. I don't know what it is that they've tried to come up with to prevent that from happening.
Yes.
I think.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh's never good.
You know who would know the answer to that question about, sending out, in his case, there's no telling if he had to send out some kind of a signal to prevent something or somebody from coming into his life on a regular basis. It would be our main man, Tracy Jones. Tracy, back in the old days, your single days, did you have to wear some kind of device maybe on the hat, whether during a game or like you wear a hat backwards regularly now, to keep some of the, in your single days, single women, kind of at bay so you could focus on doing things?
I'll tell you what I used to do, and I started this in the minor leagues. I used to do something what was called fanscaping. And I would go and look into the stands, and I would move all the good-looking girls right down to the front row. So after the game, I could kind of pick and choose which one I kind of wanted to maybe go out to dinner with or do some other things. But yeah, that's called fanscaping. I've done it for years just to make sure, because you don't want some slump buster or three-legged hyena trying to, get your attention. You've got to kind of pick and choose a little bit, and you do it through fanscaping. And then, of course, if you really want to pick up ball players, body language is really important. When you go to a ball game, you got to, even if you're in the stands, you got to give the players a thumbs up. They really appreciate that. They know you're into the ball game when you're giving the players the thumbs up. Try it. Give it to McLean next time you see him at homestand. They'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
Fanscaping.
That's it. Fanscaping. You learn something new every day. You sent me a text, which I did not get till this morning, about you've got a few things on your mind here today. By all means, the stage is yours, Tracy Jones.
I came prepared today. I know sometimes I'm slacking, but I actually brought something. Is Reed there?
Reed is not here. We have. Let me introduce you to a couple new members of the Ham and Eggers. You know Paulie. Say hello to Elliot and to Jacob. So Jacob is interning with us. Elliot Rearing is in here with us. He's a West Side guy. Tracy, you and I are public education guys, right, in high school. All three of these guys I'm in the room with are private school elites.
Ooh.
But please, I'll let you judge them for yourself.
Elliot, you look like what I like to refer to as a dork. So let me throw this. Do people know I'm just kidding with these guys? I mean, that one I'm really not, though. Here, have you guys, I know Elliot will know this. Are you guys familiar with AI, right? Artificial intelligence. Yes? No?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, are you familiar with Chat GPT? Are you familiar with that?
Kind of.
Okay,
Kind
let
of.
me explain this because this is over your head, but I'm going to break it down for you people. God, you nerd. Elliot, you should have been all over this. I would think you know this. Chat GPT is a bot that writes its own replies and stories. It's very cool. I have a monthly subscription to it. It's $20 a month. It's very cool, Tom, and I think it'd be great for the show. The question I asked ChatGPT was, and you'll like this question, who are the 10 best Reds hitters in the last 25 years? Okay, think about that. Last 25 years, the best Reds hitters. You ready for the list?
Yep.
You into it? All right. Number 1, I think we could agree, Joey Votto.
Yep.
Does anybody want to take a guess at number 2?
Number 2, I'll say, was Sean Casey.
He's in there, but not number 2. Adam Dunn. Interesting right there. This is AI.
Okay, this is clearly being based off analytical data, correct?
For sure. For sure. But wait,
and that's how it was described as best Reds hitter?
That was the question I posed. I posed that question to Chat GPT. I posed a question, and then they answered for me like in 3 seconds.
You should cancel that subscription right away.
Well, wait.
Adam Dunn, number 2. I mean, come on. Go ahead.
Come on, Tom. Look at his stats, though, man.
I've looked at his stats, and I watched him play. Give me a break. If you had to have, let me ask you a question. Where is Sean? Go with the list first, and we'll circle back to this in a minute.
Right,
go ahead.
Right. Number 3, Ken Griffey Jr. Still had good stats. Number 4, Jay Bruce. Oh, my God. Now, Tom, you can't argue with AI. There's no argument. Do you think you're smarter than AI? You're not. Okay, where am I? Number 5, Brandon Phillips. Number 6, your boy, Sean Casey. Number 7, Barry Larkin. Okay, now here it gets here's a little shaky, Tom. I'll give you this. Number 8, Scotty Rowland. Number 9, Eugenio Suarez. Had some good years, right?
Yes, he did.
Do you like that at number 9?
I like that. I do. I like that at number 9. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, then number 10 is my guy. Do you know the guy I used to, when I first came on the show, I thought he was going to be a star, blah, blah, blah. It didn't pan out. The Punisher. Aristides Aquino.
Oh, my God.
There it is. But if you look at the year 2019,
I mean, I would be canceling that subscription as fast as your tail it could get out of town. I mean, are you kidding me? Let me ask you this one. Let me just ask you this question. Okay. This is as simple as it gets, right? Of every guy you just named on that list, and I'm going to concede Votto, okay? Of 2 through 10 that you just ripped off on that list, if you had a pitcher on the mound, and I'm going to say a right-handed pitcher because everybody faces more righties and lefties over their career.
Right, for sure.
If you've got a right-handed pitcher on the mound and you got a runner at second base and 2 outs and your team's down a run in the bottom of the 9th inning and you got to pick 2 through 10 to have step in the box to deliver a base hit to tie the game. I mean, to me, numbers 2 and 3 are the biggest lead pipe cinches of all time. Who would yours be?
To hit in that position, to bring them up, to hit with.
You got to have a guy that's going to get up there and battle and is going to deliver a base hit to tie the game.
Okay, let me look at my list again. And I'm going to go with Aquino back in 2019.
Oh, my.
Now, I'll go with Griffey. I don't think I would go with Dunn. I don't think Dunn was that clutch. But Griffey, I mean, I played with Griffey. I know what he's all about. I think I'd go with Griffey. I think I would go with Griffey over Votto. Yes?
Look, the Cincinnati Red Ken Griffey Jr., no way. No way. The Seattle Mariner Ken Griffey Jr., okay, now you're talking. But if I got to have a knock, a guy who's going to put the bat on the ball, and more times than not is not going to strike out. He's capable of fouling off tough pitches, extending the at-bat, and then delivering the knock. I'm taking Casey number 2, Larkin number 3.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like the
Larkin.
Larkin.
There is no way Aquino, Suarez, Adam Dunn. Come on.
See, I knew this would get you all bent out of shape. Wait till I ask ChatGPT who are the 10 greatest rock groups of all time, and the Rolling Stones aren't 1 through 10. They're like 15th. So you'll really get upset. But you see how you could pose these questions and get different answers. It's just I thought it was interesting some of the names they put out. But Suarez was a good player for the Reds. Do you not agree with that?
No, I agree 100% on that. 100%. If you want somebody who's going to go up there and either strike out, walk, or hit one in the stands, and we know the likelihood of hitting one in the stands is fractionally so small, then Dunn's your guy.
No,
I'm not ripping Dunn. He had a really good major league career. But
he did.
The second best hitter for the Cincinnati Reds over the last 25 years?
I'm just the messenger, Tom. I'm just the messenger. Here, when I used to do Drive Time, WLW, we used to talk about topic A, and that would be the topic that everybody's talking about. Can I give you a topic that I find fascinating? And I think you will too, Tom. It's not sports related. Bobby De Niro having a child at 83 years old.
Well, let's start with the fact that it's not Bobby De Niro. Let's start with the fact that it's Al Pacino. So let's just get that. AI must have messed that up somewhere along the way.
Well, De Niro's having one too.
They're both corrected.
The story that Tracy's talking about here is Al Pacino, but like a month ago, it did come out that De Niro was also having one, and he's like 70-something, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or is he older than that?
Sorry. I don't know. But Pacino is 82. Now, what are your thoughts about that, Tracer?
Well,
to begin with, he's not. To begin with, the woman he's with, if I read the headline right, and I didn't get into the details of it, the woman is A, not his wife, B, she is 29 years young. Is that right?
Yeah, I know she's a lot younger. But let me correct something that you said. If you're kind of a Hollywood guy, which I am, I can call him Bobby De Niro. I know you Midwesters call him Robert De Niro. I can call him Bobby, being from Southern California. A lot of people don't know that I'm from Southern California. But think about how fascinating that is to have a kid at 83, and I think it's outstanding. I don't think there's anything that makes you happier, and Tom, you could speak to this, than having kids. Do you not agree?
No doubt.
Think about that, to have a kid, all the money, and then to keep you young, having a child, a baby at 83 years old or 82 years old. I think it's a great story. And you know who else did this? Randall. Tony Randall did it, right? Tony Randall had a kid when he was really old. Felix Unger. Remember Felix Unger?
Yes, I do.
Felix. Yeah. And Don King did as well. I'm just saying, to have all that money and to have kids at a late stage in your life, I think is really cool. Could you see having a child at that late, Tom?
Well, look, nobody loves being a dad on the planet more than me. People maybe as much as me, you too, and anybody who's a dad. How can you not love more than anything that will ever happen in your life more than being a dad? So you start with that. So on just the question of would I love being a dad all over again, No doubt about it. Would absolutely love it. But here's a question I would have for you, and I would have to ask myself this same question. I highly doubt Polly at her age is going to get pregnant, although a lady we know who has a junior in high school just found out 2 weeks ago, she's 52, that she's pregnant. And I mean, they are so excited. They just cannot believe it, right? But anyway, so, but Tracy, you have always been close with your dad. I mean, you talked about my dad coming and staying at your parents' house when they come out to Southern California, right?
Yeah.
But and what an impact and how important he was in your life, day in and day out as a kid. You know, my only question about the whole thing is the kid more than likely is never going to get to know dad.
I know. But it's keeping Pacino young, though. I mean, it's kind of a selfish thing, I guess. I get your point. I never even thought about it from the kid's standpoint. I mean, he'll never go out and have a toss with his boy, will he? Because he's too old. And that's your point. It's just, I think it's cool. I think it's a great idea. I think it's what I might do when I get my fifth wife, because I'll have FU money. I just might do that. I might have a kid with her. She might be in her dirty 30s, doing that. I might have a kid. Or, Tom, here's an idea. Let me throw this out. And you might think about it with your genes. What about freezing your sperm? Have you ever thought about that? Being a great broadcaster, you got good genes now. You ever thought about that?
It has never crossed my mind. Now, for you, being the athlete that you are, could you imagine if you did that and you teamed up with some, say, who wanted to carry your child, some, unbelievable track athlete or something like that, right? Who's right out of USC or something.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
I mean, it's got to be a Southern Californian, right?
Like someone, let me give you an example, like that female basketball player that was captured or in jail.
Griner,
what was her name?
Griner.
Yeah, what about someone like that? Is that what we're talking? We're just talking about just genes. I tell you, I'd think about it. Can you imagine if I did that and had a sperm bank, and on my sperm, the little tube would say MLB on it? How much do you think that sperm would go for, Tom? Does Elliot have a response to that? Elliot, can you imagine your sperm compared to my sperm, Elliot?
I don't think that would be a fair comparison.
I don't think so either.
Tracy, you're beating down, who, by the way, goes by the nickname Zebra. You are beating him down pretty hard right out of the gate here today.
Yeah, let me switch it to Polly. Polly, isn't that Taylor Swift concert coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's the month of June now. We're less than a month away.
I hear she's having problems with that concert. The people that are coming to the concert are getting sick.
Oh no, where's this going, Tracy?
No, it's not going anywhere. I just read that.
I thought there was a punchline coming. No, I have no idea. Are they actually?
What kind of illness are they suffering from?
What's the sickness?
No, he's on to something here. I remember reading something about this.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't know what it is, but maybe somebody check it out. But I will say this, and I have seen her in concert when our daughter was younger. We went up to Columbus to see her.
Yeah.
She's an unbelievable entertainer. She's on her game, totally on her game. Great performer. But I will tell you this. She showed me something the other night, and maybe you've seen the video for it. Mm. Have you seen the video of her playing at Gillette Stadium in the pouring rain? Have you seen this video?
No, I haven't, but she is a gamer. I mean, if she's going to perform, she's going to give you the money. And I think I remember that concert, Tom, that you went to in Columbus. Was that the Faith Hill Tim McGraw? Remember when she opened up for those two?
By this time, she was a headline act.
Yeah. But she's good in concert. I like her, a little cheesy, and she's a liberal, of course, or kind of a notch against
Telling
her.
us all about climate change and flying around on her private plane. I mean, she falls right in line with the rest of your Hollywood elite friends. Even Washington elite friends. John Kerry telling us all about climate change. Nobody's on a private plane more than that dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't. We got to watch it, Tom. We got to watch it. There's a lot of those. We don't want to get canceled. But, Paul, remember, I know you're engaged, but you could still play the field at the Taylor Swift concert. Remember, when you go up to get something to drink or eat for your girl, your fiance, collect those phone numbers from the girls. There's going to be a lot of girls out there. It's going to be easy pickings. Got to have a plan B in life.
Yeah, so I was talking to her last night because I mentioned that we've been doing this show now for the entire school year, and her last day of school was yesterday. So I mentioned that now that she'd actually be able – I don't think she's watching right now. I think she has one little party left that she has to go to today. But I mentioned that, the Tracy Jones segments Tuesday and Thursday, they might be something worth tuning in for now over summer break.
Tracy, we have all kinds of people that are making suggestions about women.
Okay, well, here, let me get my pen out. Go ahead.
Okay, now, I mean, this is all over the board, so I'm just going to, run through some of these as I move along here. Olivia Dunn. Who is Olivia Dunn?
Oh, boy.
She's the gymnast. She's the
She's
NIL
the LSU
sponsor.
Gymnast.
Yeah.
She's like 20.
She's famous on TikTok.
Okay, but what I'm saying is she's an athlete. She's young, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're just talking about if you were to pair two athletes together. I'm not suggesting Tracy runs around with some college girl. That's not what I'm saying. He's a married guy. Okay.
What about Martha Stewart?
Oh, God. See, that I don't need to be on the show and get insulted on that. I'm not.
What
She's
about,
on the cover, Tracy.
Now, how about Ariana Grande?
Oh.
She was the one who badmouthed the United States, right? Isn't that the one? Ripped into the United States about what a terrible place it is.
Yeah, I can't.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think that'd be a good match.
Attractive.
Selma Hayek.
Oh, yeah, Selma. Very nice. Very well endowed lady.
Okay. Somebody suggested Kate Upton, but she's married. Kamala Harris, but she's married too. Martha Stewart came up in the chat. What about Taylor Swift? She's single.
Yeah, she's got that mousy look. I tell you a girl that I probably should have married if you're talking about jeans. Tom, do you remember me talking about my girlfriend from East St. Louis? Do you remember her? Very athletic.
Yeah, I remember you talking about the girl in, I think, Oregon. And then as you got moved up in the minor leagues, I think you said you sort of moved up. I can't remember where that was. Somewhere in Pennsylvania, am I right about that? Or maybe in the Eastern League somewhere? I don't know where it was. But you said you sort of moved up. But we never heard about St. Louis. No.
Yeah, she was very athletic. And she used to take me when I was in East St. Louis and would take me around. Her parents were very proud of me. And they would take me around, and she would and I wasn't even that good back then, she would introduce me as her major league boyfriend. So there was that connection that we had, and I still think to this day I probably should have married her. She was very athletic and very proud of me.
What about Drew Barrymore?
Nah, she's a little too chunky. I like big women though. I do like them. They work a lot harder. But yeah.
Kim Kardashian.
That's some damaged goods there.
Well, but I mean, I'm saying you're a Southern California kind of guy, and she is the quintessential Southern California gal.
I'm thinking more Chloe. I kind of like Chloe since she's lost some weight. I like her.
Okay. All right. Hey, you did come prepared today. I mean, Lord knows. Where would we be without AI and who your next child should be born with?
Yes.
On the Redlegs front, all this talk, Tracer.
Yep.
All this talk, right? Jonathan India, Should he be traded? Should he change positions? I'm being very serious when I ask this. You've got all these young infielders, right? You don't have a lot of outfielders on the radar right now as far as prospects are concerned. Would you ask Jonathan India to move to the outfield so you could bring De La Cruz up? Or is that unfair to do, as Scott Boras, who was on the program yesterday, pointed out? Probably would be asking a little much to do it in the middle of a season.
I think you could ask him to move to the outfield. What I think would be difficult, and there's someone that did this, is move from the outfield to the infield. Think about what Pete Rose did to get George Foster into the lineup. See, everybody talks about Pete getting hits and everything. I know I'm getting off subject matter, but what he did there was tremendous. Who moves from the outfield to third base, which is one of the difficult positions to play, and does a pretty good job at third base and doesn't complain? Can you imagine
in the middle of the season?
Who does that? The 99 and 9/10 player would say, kiss my ass. I can see an infielder. Robin Yount did that right from shortstop to center field. There's been players. So I think India could do it. But the other side, outfield to infield, there's just no way. And De La Cruz has got to play. I mean, does he play short and you move McLean over to second base? What do you do? McLean's a stud. McLean got, player of the week. I mean, the guy's hitting the hell out of the ball, but De La Cruz has got to be called up. You can't do anything more than what he's doing, right?
Yeah,
he's the number one prospect in baseball.
Tracy, I don't know if you caught any of our interview with Scott Boras yesterday. We had him for about 50 minutes yesterday, and he just said some things that I just found to be so fascinating. But one of the things was when a player is called up from the minor leagues, and you remember what it's like for you, you've got so many things on your mind, so many things. On top of the fact that you're about to realize a dream that you've had probably since T-ball is actually happening. But he said one of the things that can really hurt a young player coming to the big leagues is, guys like you, and I say this with the utmost seriousness, guys like you and all the rest of these guys, they were the best players on their team since they were in T-ball and through elementary school and high school, college, or minor leagues, or whatever, playing every day. Now all of a sudden you come to the big leagues and you're being asked to play 3-4 days a week, which is something that has never been on your radar during your entire athletic life. And how that more so than, your talent can dramatically affect how productive you are to start your major league career. You buy that?
Not really, because you're playing 3 or 4. I mean, you're playing through the minor leagues, so you get used to playing.
No. What I'm saying is that you're used to playing every day in the minor leagues. Okay? So say a guy like McLean, he's been lucky that since he's been brought up here, he is playing every single day. All right? Okay. If you bring De La Cruz up here, well, somebody's got to sit out. And if you're not going to move India, and the natural move would be sending McLean to second base, well, now all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying here. De La Cruz and McLean probably don't play every day.
Oh, and see, if that's the case, then you don't bring them up. We talked about this last time on the show. You bring those guys up, you got to play them. You play them not until they drop, but you got to play them every day. I would have the conversation with India, move him to the outfield. I think you've got McLean and De La Cruz. You got a chance. That's a hell of a up the middle, isn't it? I mean, it really is. That is so top notch. It's very exciting. I think the Reds are pointing the right direction. And remember, I said this last time. If you've got those shortstops, you can always move those guys to the outfield. They can play center field. They can play left field. De La Cruz would be a great right fielder, right? He could play right field. I just think the future's looking bright. Just got to accumulate those number one starters.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it for no other reason. You've talked about you playing with tall, big guys who are shortstops or against them, Ripken and A-Rod and so on and so forth. But I just look at De La Cruz and I see Vladimir Guerrero Sr.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. It really is. Yeah. I mean, he can really. I said this last time. I'm kind of fascinated to watch video on him because he can do so many things. I mean, the ball jumps off his bat. He's got like the best arm in baseball. He can run. And I'm thinking, I mean, if the Reds can keep him for, I mean, this could be, I know I'm jumping the gun. This could be the greatest Red of all time because the Reds have never had a number one guy coming out of the minors, I don't think, right? And you made the point last time as well. We didn't do this during the Johnny Bench time. But you still ranked the minor leaguers, and I just think he's going to be a star. I really do.
Well, we might see him sooner rather than later, maybe as early as this weekend. Who knows? But it's going to be fun down at the ballpark. Brewers are coming into town. Reds will play tonight. They're only 3 games out of first. Team they're chasing is Milwaukee. They'll be here tomorrow. You got the Zach Brown band down there tomorrow night. You a big Zach Brown band guy?
You know, I'm a country guy. I've seen all the country concerts, but I have not seen Zach Brown. I'll tell you where I'm going here in about a half hour. I'm going to, boy, I'm getting tan. Maybe too tan. I'm going out by our pool. And our pool, Tom, I've been to a lot of pools, Vegas, all that stuff, the Mirage, the Hilton, all that. You have never seen so many good-looking girls that are out by our pool. I mean, I shouldn't call them girls. I should probably call them the best-looking gilfs I've ever seen in my life. They are beautiful. If you like them like over 80 and over, my pool is perfect for them. That's where I'm going after this show, Tom.
Well, you know, Martha Stewart's on the cover of, what's the magazine?
Sports Illustrated.
Sports Illustrated, you know, so, hey. Sounds
How old
like
is Martha Stewart? How
80.
old is Martha Stewart?
80, I think they said.
That's disgusting. 80-year-old? That's gross, Tom. You're better than that.
I'm not making any commentary on it one or the other. I'm just saying it is a statement of fact that she is on the cover. Is that the swimsuit edition?
Absolutely.
Martha Stewart is on the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. I mean, God bless her. She looks great. I think she looks great.
Yeah. If you walk around with blinders, I guess.
Fraser, have a good weekend.
All right. See you, boys. See you, Elliot.
See ya.
Ollie.
See you, Tracy. All right.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy. We started going off the rails. We continue to go off the rails.
We have a cherry on top. We have one.
We do?
Yeah, we do.
You sure we're going to get to it?
Well, that's the next step here, Tom. So hold on just a second. We have it. Yeah, okay. All right, here we go.
Here we go. Cherry on top presented by United Dairy Farmers.
All right.
All right, what do we got going on here?
So we're not going to watch the whole video, but check this out. They got air-conditioned helmets now. There's no sound here. I don't know if it's copyrighted or not, so we're rolling without sound. But check this out. They have air conditioning now in their helmets, which I think that's got to be a good thing, right? You're doing 2-a-days in July, and it's like 100 degrees down there at LSU.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
Alabama, same thing.
I mean, that's an elite addition to a uniform.
Now, there could be an issue with the visor wearers because it's going to cause a fog if they're playing in the heat there, right?
Ooh.
So we're going to have a little blinder if
Good point.
If the cold air is blowing at the warm blinder. Science.
Brian Kelly, big league operator down there.
Yeah.
He shows up and you get air conditioning in your helmet. A lot of people are saying LSU. They're the team to beat down there.
Are you a fan, Tom? Are you a fan of Brian Kelly's
I like
videos?
Brian Kelly.
Do you like the videos he makes when he recruits a new prospect?
I've not seen him.
Okay, so whenever he gets a new guy, he makes like a TikTok with him and he dances with him.
Really?
Yeah, they're very funny.
Well, you know what? I mean, I haven't seen one, but I think it sounds like it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, old guy can't be doing it. What was cooler this year in the NCAA tournament than Larinaga dancing around in the locker room?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Jerome Tang the same way with Kansas State. Yeah.
Yeah, but Larinaga's an old guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Kelly, he's not old, but he's older than, you know, some of these other guys running around. I mean, good for him. Good for him. I know a lot of people around here, UC fans, despise Kelly. I don't like the way he left at all. I would never condone that, but I like the guy.
So, Tom, you are not here tomorrow, correct?
Correct. I have to go to a funeral. It's very sad. We have a family in our little town, and where we live, you know just about everybody. And wonderful woman named Kristen Crowley. She has 2 sons, one in Luke's grade, just graduated from St. X a couple days ago. She was diagnosed with cancer about 1.5 years ago, been going through anything and everything in the treatments, and she sadly passed. So our whole town is having a celebration of life in the town for Kristen Crowley, her husband Sean, their sons Peter and Patrick. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. So tomorrow, are you sitting in?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to have Reed sit up there. Elliot will be sitting here. Jacob will be sitting over there, and we're going to do the show box lunch style. I don't know if it'll go the whole 2 hours, but we will do as much of the show as we can. We're still working on whether we're going to bring a guest on or not, or how we're going to work on that. But it'll basically be a box lunch substitution for off the bench tomorrow, and that's how we're going to roll with it.
Boy, the Reed detractors are out in full force as soon as you said that.
Yeah. So tomorrow, Sir Boy Wonder had an idea on Twitter last night that we switch it up, and we've rotated who does the chat rankings every week, and so now what the chat is going to do to flip it on us is to do a Chatterbox personnel rankings. So the chat will rank us.
Really?
Yeah.
For this week.
However they want to do it.
I mean, we do the chat rankings on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So they're going to be judging that on how all of us did this week.
I think the first one tomorrow for the inaugural chat rankings, I think they do it just based on a whole, because like Casey's not here yesterday, today, Reed's out today. Well, I don't know if that matters for the chat, but poor Reed. But yeah, I think they do it as a whole for the first one, and then from there we go week to week.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Because everybody can have a good week and a bad week.
Yeah, but I think for the first one to kind of set the tone, we do it based on the top. I don't know how they're going to organize this. They got to figure out how to organize this.
Well, I would like to just say that, well, no, look, I'm not going to try and influence the voting here, okay? I'm not. But just remember that Casey is getting married Saturday. I'm not trying to influence the voting. All right, gentlemen, well done.
We figured it out. We had a
Paul, Zebra, Jacob, you guys done good, as my grandfather used to say.
We had a shaky start, but we got things figured out, and now we're good. And tomorrow we're going to be great.
Yeah. Okay.
And the rest of the week, because we got 5 more of these next week.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm starting not to feel well. I think maybe we'll see how it goes. All right. Hey, look, all of you, I'll see you next week, good Lord willing. Have a great weekend. Gentlemen, thanks again. Good luck tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. See you later.